is it going, boys and girls? Welcome back to Key West Waterman. My name is Aaron Young. Catch you up to speed. It's been pretty windy the past week, blowing 20-25 knots out of the east, a little bit out of the northeast. Long story short, not ideal to get on the boat, and I haven't been on the boat in a few days. So we have no fish currently. And a lot of you have asked in the past about doing shore dives down here. I don't do a ton of it. And by don't do a ton of it, I mean I've done it maybe once ever. But I did get the wheels turning. It's blowing pretty good. Not ideal for the little boat or the big boat. So thought it'd be fun to go do a shore dive and maybe explore a little bit. Before I did, I'm going to take you downstairs. I want to show you a couple things that I do. Before I moved to the Keys, I used to shore dive a lot. So I want to show you a few things that I'd like to have with me if you are doing a shore dive that you typically wouldn't have on a regular dive from the boat. So I will see you down there. Alrighty, so other than obviously my basic gear, that's what I'm going to cover is everything except for the basic gear. Mast fins, snorkel, gloves, weight belt, all that. You obviously need to know that for a dive. But this is stuff that I bring when I'm doing shore dives down here. Depending on what area you're in, it could be something different depending on what species you're targeting. But this is kind of an all-encompassing setup for myself, plus a spear gun, which I don't have out here, but I will show you. Something a lot of people don't think about is defog, especially shore diving. Once you're out there, you're out there. If you forgot something, you either got to make do without it or you got to swim back and get it. If you get some water in your mask and your mask is fogging up, a foggy mask is the fastest way to ruin a dive trip in my findings. So I do like to have a little bit of defog with me. I do like to have a lobster and crab gauge. This does both. If you are new to spearfishing by chance, you could bring one of those fold-up tape measures for your fish. Personally, I never shoot undersized fish. I hate using the word never, but I've been doing this for so long. I can ballpark a fish's length within about a quarter to a half of an inch. And if it's even remotely close, I don't shoot it. Don't even take the chance. General rule of thumb, if you hesitate for even a fraction of a second, it's probably short, not worth taking. I do like to have some type of bag with me, just so I can throw the defogger in there. And goodness, this is just a lobster bag. But we run into a lot of crabs out here, spider crab, stone crab, and lobsters. You don't really want to be holding those in your hands. Obviously, bag, store stuff. Lastly, this is my float. This is actually my blue water float also, which is pretty handy. I don't have to have two of them. They do make some shore dive floats that have like round. They have some baskets or like some mesh in the middle that you can put your catch in. I typically do fine with the bag down here, depending on where I'm at. But this is my blue water float, excuse me, pretty handy. It does have a little dive flag attachment. Diving from shore, you do need a flag. And I do like to have quite a bit of rope on here. I normally just throw a tuna clip on it. I can clip this off my belt. I can clip it off to the gun. If I need to put this aside for a second and handle something, I can clip this off to a mangrove root if I'm in the mangroves, or swim down, tie it around a rock and clip it off. But that is my shore diving setup. The spot I'm actually diving today, I've never dove before, but just in case it's loaded with fish and for the sake of keeping spots protected, I'm not going to show you exactly where it's at. If you are a local, you may recognize it if you have a keen eye. But I've never dove before. I'm excited to go check it out, and I will see you over there. I've never dove this spot before. It's always exciting getting in somewhere new. Always gets the blood pumping. Let's go take a look. Welcome back underwater, everybody. Just going to answer one question that I know I'm going to get because I am near a bridge. The legality of spearfishing near a bridge, and don't count on it being this way where you are, but specifically where I'm at and the specific bridge. The law states that I cannot spearfish within 100 yards of a bridge in which fishing is allowed, and you are allowed to fish from that bridge. So what I did was I put in at the bridge and I swam 100 yards away from it. But just to be safe, I should have left my gun unloaded, just in case somebody saw me. There's no question. I didn't have any fish on me at that time, so it didn't really matter. And something else I did want to talk about, that I've had a few comments about and people have mentioned to me, and I'd rather just talk about it than ignore it, is diving alone. I would like to be clear, I do not support diving alone, and that may confuse you watching some of these mangrove videos, but in my opinion, this is not diving, this is snorkeling or swimming. I would, without a doubt, go swimming by myself. I'm not swimming down holding my breath like I would be free diving. The main risk when diving alone is free diving and shallow water blackout. People die all the time from it. Now, with that being said, I also have spent thousands and thousands of days out here. I've been in the water professionally as a career for 10 years, and I've pretty much been in the water my entire life. I know my abilities. I know what I'm capable of. I have way too much to live for. I would never put myself in a scenario where I thought I could lose my life. I know there's a lot of youngsters and beginners out here watching. I just do want to be clear. If you are new to the sport, you're not comfortable with what you're doing, you without a doubt should have a buddy with you. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And I don't want to preach too hard, but just, be safe, be smart. Know that all your decisions do have consequences. Fun fact, these are horseshoe crabs, by the way. Their blood can be, I've heard, worth up to about $60,000 per gallon. Used most commonly in the medical field, from what I hear. So I swam along for, I don't know, probably 400 or 500 feet. Made sure I was well out of range, and it got real narrow. And obviously really shallow. I was in like less than 3 feet of water. So I decided to just tie off my buoy. Obviously, no boat's going to run me over in here. You can't even get a boat in here. So I just decided to clip it off there and kind of go forward with a little more mobility. As you can see, it's pretty tight. Lots of branches and whatnot. Hadn't seen a ton of fish till now, and I'm kind of just up and down squeezing through these, and I've come up on this tree that's laying down, and there's just all kinds of grunts. Tons of life, so in my head I immediately go, there's a bunch of stuff here. Everything's kind of circulating around this. I'm going to kind of set up shop and just give it a few minutes. And this fish came in. Definitely legal. Wasn't super excited about it or itching to pull the trigger, so I just kind of watched it swim around for a bit. And a lot of these clips, I'll say I did trim. If I come to a spot like this, just completely full of life, a lot of times I will literally lay there for about 10 minutes. And just try and be completely still, just panning. Obviously, I'm not going to show you a clip of me laying still for 10 minutes. So I moved forward about 25 feet, came up to the next hump. Again, lots of life. Everybody's just kind of jetting around. This will show you why those mangroves are such good target practice. They typically don't sit still. All these other little fish, the yellow ones, are grunts. This mangrove's giving me a run for my money. Trying to grunt to get him to just relax or sit still for a sec. And I shut my camera off because I hadn't seen anything in a minute, and the second I did that, like 4 or 5 really big mangroves swam up. And then turned the cameras back off or back on, and they disappeared, and then they finally showed back up. You can see one left of the screen here. I know it's always hard to tell on the cameras. Wasn't a fan of me swinging that spear gun around, so I decided to try and move a little less. Wasn't buying it. You can see some really nice ones come in here, and definitely could have thrown a Hail Mary. They were moving so much, I just didn't have the shot I was comfortable with. You can see these 2 on the left. Big ones. I'm in like 3 feet of water, and these are 3-4 pound mangroves. Really, really cool to see. And again, keeping YouTube land real. I laid in that spot for probably 10-15 minutes. Never got the shot I wanted. So moving forward a little bit, keep going, and I come up to an end. Again, I've never dove this spot. Behind this little mangrove tunnel, it kind of flattened out. It was about 6 inches of water. I literally couldn't even swim across it. So decided I was going to flip around, and I didn't realize it until I flipped around that I had been kicking up a lot of dirt and the fish had been as well, and the tide was running back the opposite direction. So the water got really murky. It was sucking all that sediment and all that mud that I had kicked up and the fish had kicked up. And you can see it was clear at the beginning, and it just got really, really dirty. So now I'm kind of like, crap. I don't know what to do. Wanted to kind of work back to where I was seeing those bigger fish, and that's what I did. Unfortunately, the viz just was not ideal. So I did get over to that one tree where I saw the most life. Again, I parked it and just waited. And again, these videos never do justice. I'm about an hour and a half in. I've been here a while, don't have a fish yet. You'll see this fish comes across the screen, and he was broadside long enough. I felt comfortable, so I let it fly. Try and show you the angle of that braining technique. A lot of you guys ask about it, but kind of hard to slow it down on a live fish. Don't like to make them sit longer than they have to. So now I'm trying to figure out how I get out of this murk. So I kind of go back the other direction and see if I can find a cut. And I found a little, I thought I had my camera on, but I found a little tunnel that kind of cut through to a separate little mangrove canal, but it was a little shallower, but the current was moving a ton more. And when I stick my head under the water here, I just kind of wanted to show you the scenery because it's so nice there. It was really peaceful, actually. Lots of hard bottom and ledges, and it was so funny because I was literally thinking in my head, man, I'm surprised I haven't seen some short lobsters or something, because the bottom was great. It was rock, had a couple little cracks and holes and whatnot, and I promise you, not 30 seconds later, I see this big lobster just sitting there tucked up under a ledge all by itself. This time of year, they typically leave the shallows because the water gets colder and they like to walk towards the reef. And they get a little harder to find in here. I just couldn't, quite honestly, couldn't believe it was there. So I have a bag with me. I don't have a net, and I don't have a tickle stick. Pretty good at catching lobsters by hand. Try not to manhandle them. Don't want to break all the legs and stuff off. But in my head, I thought, okay, I'll unload my gun, use the shaft as a tickle stick, which I've done plenty of times before. But typically, if you're tickling them out, you want to have a net with you. And for whatever reason, I didn't think of this until right about when I started to tickle it. A lot of times when you tickle lobster and they come out, they'll shoot out of the hole. And if you don't have a net to stop them, they can take off. And I really don't want to have to chase this thing into the current. So the second I see it kind of come out, it pops in my head, I don't want this thing getting away. So I let him go back in the hole, and I'm going to use the old school manhandle method. And I'm not just sticking my hand in there, grabbing whatever and pulling. So what I'm doing right now is, think of my hand as like a big daddy long legs, and I'm trying to creep past the antennas and all the spikes that are facing out because they'll snag the threads on my gloves. So I want to get my hand all the way forward, all the way up to the knuckles, and I want to try and pinch the knuckles together, and that gives me a little more leverage on that lobster to kind of wiggle them out. The knuckles will not break. The antennas will pull right off if you grab them. And a little bit of shaking and wiggling, and you can normally get these out if you have the knuckles. You can see, had him by the knuckles, get his head out, and just secure him. It was a big, beautiful lobster. What a pleasant surprise. I was positive this thing was legal, by the way. Just wanted to show you the measurement. So after that, I figured I had enough for dinner. I'd head back. And I'll tell you what, no matter whether or not I bring something home or not, I never regret exploring a new spot. I just rode the current back and enjoyed the ride. So ended up with comparatively a small mangrove. A couple that I saw, I kid you not, were 21, 22 inches. This thing's probably like 16. Just absolute monsters. I will definitely be back. And one nice lobster. That was a real bonus. I couldn't believe I saw that. The bottom looked like it would be good for it, but this time of year the water gets cold. They typically walk out to the reef. So I was a little surprised to see that, but I will take it. That's plenty for dinner. We'll get these back to the house and get them taken care of. Alright, so I'm going to break down my snapper. Need a knife and a fork, and I'm going to break this down a little different than I normally would. And I will explain why when we get in the kitchen. So, we're only going to eat this tonight. I actually decided to save the lobster for breakfast tomorrow. We're going to try and catch some shrimp tonight. Maybe we can have a lobster and shrimp huevos rancheros. But that'll be a different episode. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this guy. I got a fork. I'm going to do it underwater just to try to avoid the mess. So normally I gut my fish out in the water. Because I had an idea that I would be scaling it, I left the guts in. They're just a little easier to gut. Or, excuse me, they're a little easier to scale before they're gutted. So that looks pretty good. Got all the scales off. Now I'm gonna remove the insides. Feed all these little minnows right here. I'm also going to take the gills out. An easy way to do this on a smaller fish, you can take a knife and run up underneath. But something else that I noticed that's really handy for removing gills is if you have snips or shears, scissors. You can get in that corner. It should pop right out. So that's the front side. Oh, come back. Oh, don't go that far. I need you. Almost lost my dinner. Alright, so I've got gills out, the guts out, scales off, most of them. And the last thing I'm actually going to do, and I'll explain why, like I said, once we get in the kitchen, I'm actually going to knock the sides off of it, but leave the skin on. This will work right here. Gotta be the dullest knife I own right there. want that. Just gonna take the ribs and the pin bones out of this. Those pin bones will run a little less than halfway back normally. You can feel them. Alright, so I've got fillets, skin on. Got my rib cages and my carcass. See you in the kitchen. Alrighty, we're in the kitchen. So like I said, I was gonna explain why I kind of acted like I was gonna cook the fish whole, but then I didn't. I left the skin on, scaled it. Before I kind of explain tonight's recipe, I get a lot of people who ask me about some of the recipes we do, especially the ones that are including cooking the fish whole. For years and years when I was younger, I always heard people tell me that the head's the best part of the fish, or all the flavors in the bones, and I never really believed it, never tried it. And after doing it, I can assure you it's true. Like the body and the carcass and the head and all that stuff of the fish is literally what packs all the flavor. So a lot of you guys are a little weary on eating the whole fish or cooking them whole just because you don't want to have to pick through the head, or you don't want to look at the eyeballs, whatever it may be. But I want to show you this recipe that you can use the whole fish without having to do that. And basically what we're going to do is utilize the body by making a stock to start. Now, I'm doing a lot of talking, but this recipe is one that my roommate Will did. And it's from Papua New Guinea, and they did it a little different. They had like river rocks where they heated up the river rocks and put it in everything and let it steam. I'm gonna do it a little different. I don't have that kind of time. I'm pretty hungry. So we're gonna do it in a pot. So I'll break down what I have. I have some collard greens here. I took the, I guess, stems or veins out, and I soaked them in half coconut milk, half water for about 45 minutes. I have some thinly sliced sweet potatoes. This is the carcass of the fish. This is what I'm using. I'm actually using canned coconut milk. I didn't have time to make some fresh tonight, and I know a lot of you guys will probably have to use that anyways because you don't have coconuts hanging out. And here I have the fish carcass, the head, 1 can of coconut milk, and then I filled that can back up with water. I have garlic salt and some ginger powder in there. What I'm going to do is bring this up to heat, and I'm going to boil that or simmer that for about 45 minutes. And what this is going to be typically we'd cook the fish whole in this, but this is going to be the broth or the base of this kind of dish. So simmer 45 minutes, and we'll see you back here shortly. One last thing I did forget, grated garlic. And that is it. All right, so I let this go 40 minutes, and I could, based on my smell, it's just...
It smells so good.
I know we say it every time, but the idea when it comes to cooking is to cook something that tastes good. And I had someone ask me, he's like, you ever cook anything you really don't like? Which is not really the goal, so yes, it normally smells good, but this is the Americanized version. I'm gonna strain the carcass and everything out, the bones, the scales. I'm actually gonna pick through that in a bit, but I just wanted to show you a way you can utilize all of that, get all the flavor out of there.
Oh, fogging up the camera.
Without having to deal with all of that. So there's still some meat on there. I'm gonna deal with that in a bit. Now what we're gonna do, so we have our broth. Literally it was garlic salt, garlic, ginger powder, coconut milk, and water. And truth be told, I did add a little more water and coconut milk. And because of that fish, it literally smells I mean, you can smell it. It smells like you put a stick of butter in there.
It smells so good.
So I'm gonna bring this up to a boil over here. We're gonna add these sweet potatoes. I'm gonna boil these because they're gonna take a little longer than our collard greens. I'm gonna say we'll boil these for probably, I don't know, I'm gonna eyeball them. Boil them for 10 minutes and then we're gonna add the collard greens on top, let them steam, and then we will add our fish.
Yay.
So about 10 minutes on the sweet potatoes are just starting to soften up. These collard greens don't take nearly as long, from what I hear. I'm gonna be honest with you, I have never cooked collard greens in my entire life. I watched Will do it a couple weeks ago, so. Going off memory here. Ooh, that's hot. I'm just gonna let those steam just a couple minutes. Whew. Kind of eyeballing it on time here. And I've got my fillets. Just gonna go set those in just so they'll steam. Shouldn't take more than a minute or two. We're almost there.
Oh, oh, oh. Wow.
Oh my goodness, I wish you could smell it.
It smells so good.
The smell is unbelievable. I'm gonna take these out just for the sake of
Whoa, whoa, you're not getting the juice.
presentation. Well, just hold on. Trust the process. Trust the process. Alright. Hunger level. Medium, big.
Pretty big.
Pretty big. Some more sweet taters.
Get some collard greens.
Lots of broth.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
Extra medium?
Extra. Extra medium. Wow.
There you are. I cannot remember the name. Americanized. I think it's like a gear or something rather. Go to Will's channel. It's on there.
Cooking with clams.
All right, let me get mine going. Pearl. You're in my chair.
No, that's true.
All right, let's see what's going on here. I'm gonna try the fish first.
I'm gonna try the broth.
Oh my goodness.
The broth literally tastes like it's like just butter.
It literally tastes like a stick of butter.
So much flavor.
And what blows my mind is that I put one 15, 16-inch snapper in there. Like, I think if I could do it over, and I mean, I would just add more fish, but it really doesn't need it. It literally tastes like a stick of butter.
It's so good. So good.
Taste the fish.
I'm gonna get a.
It's so soft.
I'm gonna get an all-encompassing bite.
And I got a little wild. Mine turned a little orange. The broth turns a little orange because I got crazy with the sweet potatoes, but. And I know a lot of you guys ask for recipes, but we kind of just eyeball it on times and whatnot.
Oh my goodness. It's so good. The fish is cooked perfect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's hot.
Mine's not that bad.
I feel like we say it every time, but you gotta try this one.
This one is really good. It's almost like a fall dish.
Yeah.
Well, this is perfect for people in up north.
It's cold.
Where it's cold.
Y'all up north.
Up north. Yeah, this is a great winter, fall, like cozy dish for sure.
I think the only thing I could
So
think of
good.
was add more carcasses to get more of like the fatty flavor out, but
I feel like you nailed it, babe.
it's
Good
hard
job.
to beat. Hard to beat.
Good job.
Thanks, Will. I didn't invent this. Well, that is all we've got. We're gonna enjoy this. I'm actually gonna try and get up tomorrow morning. We'll see. Kind of had a long day. Try and get
Very
up,
long day.
try and get up tomorrow morning before sunrise and go catch some shrimp for Madeleine's world famous huevos rancheros. We haven't done that one in a while, so hard to get her to make it.
It's just a long process.
As always, any questions? please feel free. Leave in the comments, and we will see you on the next one. Later.